If you pass through Abuja at dawn, you will hear the city breathe. The air is soft over Garki. Kiki horns whisper through Wuse. The sky over Maitama holds the first silver of day like a secret. And in that hour when the streets are not yet crowded and the trees still remember the night wind, a rumor moves faster than a motorcycle. There is a man who becomes richer with every sunrise, though no one knows the work of his hands. His name is Daniel Cole. People simply call him Mr. Daniel. He is the owner of tall gates and taller stories. His mansions stand like quiet kings in Asakoro and Guzape, his cars line up like obedient soldiers, and his smile is like a golden mask, bright, unchanging, hiding everything. Mr. Daniel is always clean. His suits sit on his shoulders like they chose him. When he steps out of his black car, two men open the door as if he is the president of the street. Children point. Parents look away, traders bow a little, security guards quickly press their shirts flat. And whenever Mr. Daniel passes by, talk bends around him like grass under a heavy foot. Nobody knows the true source of his wealth. Some say he is only lucky. Others say he is the river that drinks other rivers. Some talk about a certain office that never closes, business that begins where conscience ends, but nobody has proof. They only have whispers and the quiet kind of fear that slides behind the curtains. Mr. Daniel marries beautiful women, 2 women so fine you would think God painted them in extra light. 4 wives live in his houses, Mary, Esther, Rose, and Lily. Each one used to smile like a festival. Each one now smiles like a duty. People speak softly about them. They say, those are his queens, but their eyes say, those are his shadows. The story goes that before these 4, there were others, women who walked into his life wearing hope, then left wearing silence. The ones who left did not return to tell stories. They simply became past tense. No one saw marks or bruises. No, Mr. Daniel does not leave such ordinary evidence. But people say he controls with a cold hand, and control can feel like a wound even without a scar. But this tale is not about the shape of a wound. It is about the shape of grace. In Kuje Extension, where the air is bright and the ground smells of new buildings, there lives a young girl named Sandra. She is 18. She is light brown, keen-eyed, and surprisingly calm for her age. People say she walks as if she hears a song the rest of us don't hear. Her family is not rich. In fact, poverty has learned the route to their door and does not need a map to find it. Sandra's father, Mr. Peter, works hard as a driver when he can find jobs. Her mother, Mrs. Blessing, sells cooked yam by the roadside and sometimes comes home with more smoke than profit. Sandra has 2 younger brothers who laugh even when the pot is thin. Sandra laughs with them. Life may be narrow, but her heart is wide. On Sundays, Sandra goes to church in Area 1. She sings in a small choir that believes every voice is an instrument in God's hand. When she sings, even those who do not understand the words can feel the meaning. She believes that prayer is a door, and she keeps it open. She believes that God does not take attendance only on Sundays but walks the roads of Abuja every day, passing by Wuse Market, stopping in Gwarimpa, listening to the ordinary. One afternoon, when the sun was leaning towards evening and the streets of Kuje were sweet with the smell of roasted corn, Mr. Daniel's convoy took a wrong turn, or so the driver said. The car slowed in front of the little market, and Mr. Daniel looked through the tinted glass and saw Sandra. He did not know her name. He did not know her story. He only saw that she was beautiful in a way wealth cannot buy and power cannot stage. Beauty, yes, but more than beauty. It was something like light that did not belong to the sun. He looked at her and thought, this is glory. He smiled a slow smile. When the car moved on, the smile remained, and the idea stuck like a seed in rich soil. The next day, Mr. Daniel returned. He did not send assistants. He came himself, dressed simple, like a businessman who drops by markets to be friendly. He greeted traders, bought fruits he did not need, and then right place, right time he walked towards Sandra's mother's stall. "Madam," he said, "good afternoon." "Good afternoon," sir, Mrs. Blessing answered, surprised and polite. She could tell from the cut of his shirt that he was not an ordinary customer. And there was Sandra, washing plates in a bowl of warm water, sunlight arranging itself on her cheek. Mr. Daniel smiled at her as if he had known her for years. He asked for yam and stew, moved by a sudden hunger that came from ambition, not from the stomach. He sat on the small bench that had seen many men with smaller dreams and ate with the patience of a hunter who knows the trap is already set. "What is your name?" he asked Sandra, not looking at the plate but at the person. "Sandra," she said, quietly. "Sandra," he repeated, like a man tasting a sweet word. "Your food is excellent. Your mother is blessed." "Thank you, sir," Sandra said. She did not hold his gaze for long. Something about his eyes felt like standing on a balcony without a railing. He did not push. He left a tip that looked like a misunderstanding. It was too much for yam and stew. It was enough for school fees, enough for rent, enough for the small emergencies that knock like unwanted visitors. "Sir," Mrs. Blessing began, "this is too." "It is nothing," Mr. Daniel replied, the kind of nothing that sounds like thunder. "Your daughter has a bright future. I only appreciate good cooking." He left, and the stall felt different, like a space after a storm, no rain, but heavy air. Sandra watched him go. She quietly prayed in her heart, the way one whispers at a window, "Father, guard my steps. Close the doors that should stay closed. Open the doors you choose." That night, a new worry moved into their house. Poverty had been living there for years, but poverty is familiar, it does not hide. This new worry wore a good suit and a polished smile. Mr. Peter, Sandra's father, counted the money again. He called it a blessing. He said, "God remembers us." He said, "This man may be our helper." Sandra did not answer, she listened, she prayed. By the third day, Mr. Daniel returned with a blue gift bag and 2 quiet men. The bag contained a fine phone, a new wrapper for Mrs. Blessing, and money arranged neatly in an envelope. The quiet men smiled without their eyes. "Sir, we cannot," Mr. Peter began, but his voice had softened. The envelope did not seem heavy in Mr. Daniel's hand. It only became heavy when it sat on their table, turning the room into a question. Sandra stood aside, her hands clean and empty. Mr. Daniel greeted her again. "Sandra, how are you today?" His voice was honey poured carefully. "I'm fine, sir," she said. "Your beauty is a gift," he said. "I respect gifts, I would like to know you better." "Thank you, sir," Sandra replied, not stepping closer, "but I'm not interested." The quiet men did not shift, but something inside the air did. It felt like a drumbeat, distant but clear. Mr. Daniel did not look offended. He smiled. "Young people speak fast," he said. "I speak slow. Think about it." He left. And he kept leaving and returning. He returned with more gifts. He sponsored Sandra's brother's school fees. He settled the family's small debts. He sent a generator with a ribbon tied like a celebration. He greeted the neighbors, too, and their words became a chorus. "This man is kind," they said. "Sandra, be wise." But Sandra had a small voice inside her, and it did not sing the same song. It said, "Be still, look twice. Listen deeper." When she prayed, she felt a shield around her, a calm, gentle wall that did not boast but would not break. Then the pressure began. It began as friendly advice from relatives. It grew into long talks at night from her parents. It became heavy like a pot filled with stones. "Sandra," her mother said, "this is not only about you. This is about us. He can help our family. He is honorable. He is respected. He is wealthy. He is choosing you." "Mom," Sandra answered, "I don't have peace." "Peace?" her uncle asked when he visited. "Peace cannot pay bills. Peace cannot send your brothers to school. Peace cannot move us out of this place. you need to think like an adult. Sandra's father said, we have prayed for help. Help has come. Don't let it pass us by. Sandra wept quietly, safe tears, not loud ones. She told God, if this door is not your door, keep it shut. And each time Mr. Daniel appeared, she felt the same gentle warning as before, like a hand on her shoulder saying, not this way. But the world is loud, and the loudness can drown out the quiet truth. The day finally came when the family, broken by need, blind with gratitude, decided for her. They did not drag her by the arm, but the weight of their insistence felt the same. They said, just come and see his house. Just talk. Just be polite. Politeness became visits. Visits became an engagement. The engagement became a small ceremony that looked larger than their dreams. Mr. Daniel's friends arrived like a parade. Photographers smiled, neighbors clapped. Sandra stood there like a candle that refused to go out. She moved into Mr. Daniel's home in Guzape, where the floors were so clean you could see your face frowning on them. The gates closed behind her like a book that someone else chose to read. The rooms smelt of expensive peace. The other wives smiled at her with tired kindness. Mary was gentle, her voice like soft cloth. Esther was careful, speaking only when necessary. Rose used jokes to build bridges over deep water. Lily watched with eyes that had learned the cost of words. Welcome, Mary said. You are our sister now. Sandra felt their kindness. She also felt a question hiding behind their smiles, as if they wanted to say, if we could carry you back to your mother's cooking fire, we would. Mr. Daniel was a perfect gentleman in public. He invested in slow dinners, careful compliments, and grand gestures that looked like love from a distance. But the closer one looked, the more it felt like a performance rehearsed many times. He did not shout. He did not strike. He simply controlled the air. A phone call would silence a room. A raised eyebrow would end a conversation. And his gaze, always steady, always measuring, made people speak to please him and think in private. Sandra did not argue, she learned the house like a map, she greeted the staff. She helped the wives arrange the pantry. She prayed at night in a quiet corner where the moon could find her. She thanked God for breath and asked him for strength. Time passed, one careful day after another, until the day Mr. Daniel finally reached out for what had attracted him from the start, not Sandra's face, not her kindness, but the bright, unbuyable glow around her life. He had met many beauties. He had paid for many smiles. But this one had something different, something like a light that doesn't grow dim when the generator goes off. He wanted that light to serve his own darkness. He tried the methods he knew. Some were polite, like an invitation. Others were subtle, like a trap covered with velvet. He brought Sandra into his private study, a room lined with books and secrets. He offered gifts tied to conditions that were too neat to be innocent. He asked questions that were not really questions. He tried to bend her prayers into his plans. Yet every time he reached for the light around her, his hands closed on air. Sandra remained kind. She was respectful. She did not quarrel, but when she prayed, the room changed. It was not dramatic. The air simply lost interest in Mr. Daniel's confidence. His smile would weaken in that space, his eyes would shift. He would cough and change the subject. Mr. Daniel grew puzzled. He had mastered many shadows in the world, the shadows that like to sit on people's shoulders and make them feel small. He knew how to open doors people did not know they had. But with Sandra, every door he pushed was already locked from the inside by a key he could not forge. He tried again and again. He waited for fear to dim her. It did not. He looked for pride to break her. It did not. He watched for anger to crack her. It did not. Each attempt bounced like a pebble thrown at a quiet lake. It made rings in the water but never reached the bottom. That was when Mr. Daniel began to lose his balance quietly at first. His temper was a thing he kept in his pocket. Now it kept slipping out. He replaced affection with quiet arguments, then returned with roses, then left with silence. His mind, once sharp as a new blade, became busy with questions he could not answer. Why has every trick become dull? Why does every door refuse me? Meanwhile, the wives watched. Mary noticed the way Sandra's calm did not depend on Mr. Daniel's mood. Esther saw that Sandra's peace did not beg for permission. Rose realized that Sandra's laughter, when it came, did not echo Mr. Daniel's approval. Lily, who trusted her gut more than her words, began to sleep better whenever Sandra prayed. Hope moved through the hallways like a breeze that smells of rain. One evening, Abuja's sky turned purple gold, and the sound of distant traffic hummed like a deep drum. Mr. Daniel called for a dinner with all 4 wives and Sandra. He smiled too hard. He told a small story about his day that did not sound true. He asked Mary about her family with polite boredom. He complimented Esther's dress without seeing it. He told Rose a joke he did not finish. He looked at Lily and found nothing to say. Then he turned to Sandra. You are quiet, he said. I'm at peace, Sandra replied, gently. Peace, he repeated, as if tasting a spice he did not like. He lifted his glass. To peace, he said, and drank. The next day, the housekeeper, a patient man named David, found something unusual while cleaning Mr. Daniel's study. It was a small metal box hidden behind a row of untouched books. The box was ordinary, but it sat in a place that was not. David did not open it, but he noticed it. He noticed, too, that the air around it felt colder than the rest of the room. He did not talk. He continued his work. He prayed a short prayer he had learned as a child. Sandra began to sense that the shield around her was growing larger, extending into corners that once felt heavy. She was not fighting. She was simply standing. And when light stands long enough in a dark room, the dark begins to forget its confidence. Mr. Daniel tried one more time. He invited a certain visitor, an old friend from long ago who knew the narrow roads where easy power lives. The visitor arrived late, wrapped in perfume and polished shoes. They spoke in the study. The visitor laughed like a man with too many keys on his chain. But when he asked to meet Sandra, something changed. He stepped into the hallway where Sandra had just passed, carrying a plate of fruit for Mary, and a quiet wind moved through the house. It was not a big wind. The curtains did not dance. It was just enough to remind the visitor that not every door belongs to him. He returned to the study, sober. You have married a wall with a window, he said to Mr. Daniel. You can see the light, but you cannot enter. Mr. Daniel's smile finally cracked. What are you saying? I am saying you should count your steps, the visitor answered. There are houses where your shoes lose their shine. Mr. Daniel dismissed him with anger he could not use. That night, he slept poorly, tossing like a man rolling away from his own thoughts. Sandra slept in calm. The wives slept a little deeper than usual. Morning came with the smell of fried plantain and the quiet cheer of a house that had stopped tiptoeing. Sandra was in the kitchen with Rose, cutting fruit, when a sharp cry rose from outside. A gardener had dropped his shears, staring at the sky. Birds, hundreds of them, had gathered on the compound wall, not flapping, not moving, as if they were waiting for a verdict. It was a strange sight, but not frightening. It felt less like a threat and more like a witness. David, the housekeeper, carried a tray past the study door and paused. He heard voices, not one voice. Many, not loud, not words, just a rumble, like distant thunder. He stepped back and saw the small metal box from the bookshelf sitting on the table. It was open. Inside were journals. Not ordinary diaries. These were catalogs of Mr. Daniel's business, carefully disguised, but not enough to fool a determined eye. Names, dates, properties that changed hands at odd hours. Foundations that collected donations and then collected silence. Contracts that ended people's courage. There were also photographs, carefully cropped to tell different stories depending on who was looking. And there were letters, the kind that travel quietly between powerful men and return without stamps. David did not touch. He did not need to. The sight was enough, he stepped away. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with the realization that a house can be a stage, and a stage can become a courtroom when truth enters. Mr. Daniel returned to the study and found what he had left. His secrets now felt heavy. He closed the box quickly. He looked around, as if the walls might testify. Then he locked the box and carried it to a deeper place, a hidden cabinet at the bottom of a drawer made to hide drawers. He told himself he was in control. But control is only powerful when nobody is calm enough to question it. That evening, Sandra visited Mary's room. Mary had been quiet all day. She sat on the edge of her bed, holding a picture of her in her first month in the house, eyes bright, smile unbroken. "Sister," Mary said, voice about to become tears, "I forgot how to be myself." "You will remember," Sandra said gently, "you are still here." Esther joined them, then Rose, then Lily. No plan. Just women gathering, as women do, when a storm begins to shrink. They spoke in a circle of softness. No blame, no sharpness. Sandra prayed quietly for each one, not long, not loud. Just enough to hang a small lantern above each head. Days turned into a week. A week into 2, and then came the day when Abuja woke with a deeper clarity in its light, as if the sun had slept in a better hotel. That was the day Mr. Daniel's world began to come undone, not through noise, not through public drama, but through the calm unfolding of truth. It started with a file that was not supposed to be found. A young auditor with clear eyes and a clean heart uncovered a paper trail that pointed, politely but firmly, to Mr. Daniel. He did not shout. He followed the trail. Trails lead to doors, doors lead to rooms. Rooms hold secrets, and secrets, when they are tired, decide to stretch. The auditor made a call, then another. The phones of powerful people began to ring in careful tones. Meanwhile, inside the house, Lily found courage for a conversation she had postponed for years. She told Sandra something she had never told anyone. She spoke of the heaviness she felt when she had first married Mr. Daniel, the sense that she had walked into a place where her laughter would be used as a receipt. She said she had learned to swallow her voice. "But when you came," Lily whispered, "my voice began to come back." Sandra held her hand. "It is yours," she said, "no one can own it." The exposure did not happen like a movie with sirens and crowds. It happened like a quiet morning where one window is opened and then another, until the whole house smells of fresh air. The auditors arrived in suits. They asked polite questions, they were followed by men who asked less politely. Mailboxes lit up. Phones became heavy in certain pockets. A case that had slept too long began to wake. Mr. Daniel stood still while the world moved. He had faced storms before, but they had all listened to him. This one did not. At home, the wives were called to answer simple questions about records they did not keep. They were told they were not in trouble. They were treated with respect. For the first time, the house felt like a place where truth could sit on the couch and refuse to leave. Sandra was asked, too. She spoke gently, carefully. She did not accuse, she simply told what she had seen, which was surprisingly little. Mr. Daniel had always kept the true shape of his world locked in boxes and drawers and behind smiles. But sometimes what you have not seen is itself a testimony. Then one evening, when the sky over Abuja was the color of ripe mango and the city hummed its usual songs, a visitor came to the gate. He was an elderly man with a walking stick and eyes like a quiet lake. His name was Pastor James, from Sandra's church in Area 1. He asked to see Sandra. The guards hesitated, then sent word. Sandra came to the gate with Mary, Esther, Rose, and Lily trailing behind like a slow procession of hope. "My daughter," Pastor James said, "the Lord sent me to pray for this house." Sandra nodded, eyes bright with relief. "Please," she said. They prayed at the gate, then in the living room, then in the hallway, then near the study door that had seen too much control and not enough truth. No shouting, no show, just ordinary words speaking to an extraordinary God. The air felt different. A heaviness that had been here so long it had learned the names of the chairs began to pack its bags. That night, something happened that would later be called the turning. Mr. Daniel, unable to sleep, went to his study to find comfort in his records, the way a man touches his trophies when his team starts losing. He opened the secret cabinet to remind himself he was still the author of his fortune, but the metal box was not there. He froze. He checked the second drawer, the third, the false bottom, only he knew. Nothing. He opened the bookshelf. Empty space. He pulled out files. Dust fell like confession. The box was gone. His heart did something it had not done since he was a young man. It panicked. He turned to the door, and in that instant he saw a reflection in the glass of the bookcase, his own face, yes, but smaller somehow, as if the room had finally told him the truth about his size. He hurried down the hallway, calling for David. He called for the security man. He called for the driver. He called for anyone whose loyalty could be cashed like a check. They all came running, and their faces said they would help, but their eyes said something else. Maybe the world is changing, sir. Maybe we cannot hold it. The wives, awakened by footsteps, stood in the upstairs corridor. Sandra stood with them. Mr. Daniel looked up and saw 5 women who had lived under his shadow now illuminated by a light he could not dim. For the first time, he noticed they were not decorations in his story. They were people with names that did not belong in his catalog. "Who took my box?" he asked, voice steady in the way a bridge is steady until it is not. No one answered. Because none of them had touched it. In the morning, a plain brown package arrived at the office of a certain agency in Abuja. No name. No return address. Inside, a metal box, some journals, letters, photographs. Enough truth to invite daylight into a very expensive cave. Calls were made. Meetings were moved. You could feel the city holding its breath, the way Abuja does when rain is about to make the dust remember that it is earth. In the house, the wives learned something new. Freedom sometimes begins before the door is open. They stood taller. They spoke without measuring each syllable. Sandra smiled a real smile, the kind that does not ask for permission. Lily laughed out loud in the kitchen and did not apologize. Mary sang in a soft voice. Esther walked into the garden without wondering if someone was counting her steps. Rose told a story that made them all hold their sides. Mr. Daniel noticed, and he began to understand. A man who believes people are property is confused by the sight of people who have decided to be free. He saw that the shine of his life had never been as bright as he thought. It was just closely polished shadows. And now the light was in the house, and shadows look untidy in honest sun. He tried, once more, to reassert his power. He called a meeting. He measured each word like a man placing bricks. He said to the wives, "Whatever you have heard, whatever is being said, remember who I am." Mary lifted her head. "We do," she said, simply. He waited for Fear to speak next. Fear did not attend the meeting. That afternoon, Sandra's father and mother came to visit. They were nervous. They had heard rumors traveling faster than motorcycles. They wanted to see their daughter with their own eyes. When they held Sandra, something broke in them, something like a knot made of desperation. Mr. Peter began to weep in the way men weep when the story they told themselves about their choices finally admits the truth. Mrs. Blessing said, "Forgive us." Sandra held them both and said, "We are still a family." She did not add, "Even when the world tried to hire us out." She did not need to. The hug said it. Toward evening, when the day had gone soft and the cars outside sounded like distant rain, a vehicle parked quietly near the gate. No siren, no big noise. A man in a gray suit stepped out, carrying nothing but a folder and the kind of calm that says he knows where the road leads. The guards recognized the look that people wear when they bring official light into unofficial rooms. "Good evening," he said. "We need to see Mr. Daniel. We have some questions." He was respectful. He did not come to humiliate. He came to invite truth into conversation. Mr. Daniel met them in the living room where many pictures of his triumphs were hung. He sat straight, a gentleman. He answered questions he did not sweat. He smiled the smile of a man who believes he can teach the sea how to be wet. The gray suit man nodded, wrote something, closed the folder, and said they would return in the morning. After they left, the house grew very quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't ask for company. The wives retreated to their rooms. David locked the doors. The birds outside went to sleep one by one. Abuja lowered its volume. Sandra stayed up, praying softly near the window that faced the city lights. She thanked God for breath and for the walls that are really shields. She asked for mercy for everyone in the house, even Mr. Daniel, especially him, because mercy is a door no one can lock from the outside. And then, as midnight leaned on the house like a gentle weight, a sound came from the corridor, a whisper of footsteps, too careful for a person with nothing to hide. Sandra looked up. The door handle moved. She felt no fear. She stepped back, and she spoke softly. "Who is there?" The door opened a little. A face appeared in the gap. Not hostile. Not friendly, familiar enough to be unsettling. It was the visitor from weeks ago, the one with too many keys on his chain. He smiled a thin smile. "Good night, madam," he said. "I came to speak with Mr. Daniel, but since you are awake, perhaps we can talk." Sandra did not answer. She watched, steady, as the man's eyes flicked to the small table where her Bible lay, open. His smile tightened. "Things have changed in this house," he said, almost to himself. "But some doors do not change. They only wait." Before Sandra could speak, a second shadow moved behind the man. Someone else was in the corridor, someone neither of them had seen. A quiet cough. A glimmer of metal, not a weapon, just the corner of a small object catching moonlight. The visitor's smile vanished. He turned sharply, whispering a name that sounded like regret. Sandra stepped forward. "Who is there?" she asked again, calm as a sunrise. No reply. A door down the hall clicked open. Mary's voice floated out, soft and shaken. "Sandra? Are you awake?" Another door opened. Esther, then Rose, then Lily, each of them stepping into the corridor, light behind them, fear somewhere else. They stood together, a small wall of human calm. The visitor looked from one to the other, then back toward the deeper darkness where the second shadow had paused. He raised his hands, not in surrender, not exactly, but as if acknowledging a rule he had ignored. "Ladies," he said, "forgive the hour. I will come back at a better time." He turned to leave. From the other end of the corridor, a door opened gently, and Mr. Daniel stepped out, careful in his tailored nightshirt, eyes sharper than they had been in weeks. He saw the visitor, the wives, Sandra at the center. He looked, and in his look there was something new, not anger, not arrogance. It was the expression of a man who finally realizes he has been walking in a dream and has woken in a room full of witnesses. "Don't go," he said to the visitor, voice even. "We will talk now." The visitor paused, laughed softly, and tilted his head. "Talk?" he said. "My friend, it is a little late for talk." And then, from downstairs, the doorbell rang, one long, clear chime that sounded like a bell in a school where truth is the teacher. Everyone froze. The wives glanced at one another. Sandra felt her heart rise, not with fear, but with the knowledge that a moment had arrived, the kind that divides a story into before and after. The bell rang again. David's footsteps approached the main door. A lock turned, hinges sighed, a cool night wind entered, carrying the faint scent of rain and the far-off murmur of Abuja traffic. "Good night," a calm voice said below, the same voice from the gray suit, the one who knows where the road leads. "We are here for a few more questions. And we will need everyone present." Upstairs, the visitor's smile disappeared like a candle in daylight. Mr. Daniel's face became still, truly still, for once without any performance. The wives stood together, and the corridor felt like the inside of a lighthouse. Sandra looked toward the stairs and whispered, "Thank you, Father," barely a breath. The gray suit voice spoke again, clear and polite. Mr. Daniel, please come with us. Mr. Daniel glanced at Sandra. For the first time, he did not look like a king in his own house. He looked like a man standing at the gate of truth, trying to remember the language of honesty. He took one step forward. And from the dark end of the corridor, the second shadow finally moved, quick, silent, dropping something small and glinting to the floor near Sandra's feet. It was a key. Not an ordinary key. The very key to the metal box. The visitor, eyes wide now, turned as if to snatch it. Sandra reached down first, calmly, as if picking up a fallen leaf. The house held its breath. Is this what you were looking for? Sandra asked softly. No one answered. Downstairs, the gray suit men waited. Upstairs, a secret had chosen its owner. The visitor's mouth opened, then closed. Mr. Daniel's hands, for once, were empty. Sandra lifted the key, and in that small, gentle movement, the house felt something shift, a quiet earthquake in the foundations of control. She closed her fingers around it. If you hold your breath, you can still hear the bell from last night ringing through the corridors of Guzape. The key is in Sandra's palm, small, cold, shining like a drop of moon. The visitor with too many keys on his chain stands frozen. Mr. Daniel stands, too, his face carefully empty, the way a closed door looks from the street. Downstairs, the gray suit men wait with patient voices and a folder that knows how stories end. Is this what you were looking for? Sandra asks again, calm, steady, as if she is asking whether anyone wants water. No one answers. The night air carries the faint smell of rain and city lights. In that pause, you can hear another sound, the sound of a house changing its mind. David, the housekeeper, appears at the base of the stairs. Madam, he says, voice gentle, the men downstairs are ready. His eyes flick to the key, then to Sandra's face, and in that glance is a quiet agreement, this house will not lie to itself anymore. Sandra steps forward, not fast, not slow, and places the key into David's open hand. Please, she says, give it to them. The visitor twitches. Mr. Daniel doesn't. A small gust slips through the corridor and nudges a curtain like a whisper, let it be done. David nods and goes downstairs. The wives gather beside Sandra, Mary with her soft courage, Esther with careful strength, Rose with bright watchfulness, and Lily with the new voice she's found. They do not touch Sandra, but the air between them hums like joined hands. The gray suit men receive the key with polite gravity, as if it is a map or a witness. There is no loudness, no shouting, no parade of authority. Only questions that do not fear answers, and a box that prefers daylight to secrecy. They ask for Mr. Daniel. He comes down the stairs, steps measured, jaw set. He looks at the key in the officer's hand, then at Sandra, then at the visitor behind her. The visitor's eyes are quick, calculating, but the calculation is old math, the kind that no longer adds up. Good evening, sir, the lead officer says. We'll need to look inside the box that fits this key. Of course, Mr. Daniel replies, smooth as tile, I keep records, my affairs are in order. Maybe last week, that voice would have worked. Maybe last month, that smile would have rearranged the temperature of a room. But tonight, the room belongs to truth. And truth does not hire itself out. They walk to the study. The wives watch from the living room. Sandra stands a little behind them, her prayer silent but firm, like a lamp that has never learned to flicker. The cabinet opens. The hidden drawer slides back. The metal box, previously missing, lies waiting as if it changed its mind about being hidden. The lead officer inserts the key, turns gently, and the lock clicks like a yes. Inside, journals, letters, photographs, enough paper to tell a long story in small, undeniable pieces. The visitor inhales through his teeth, the sound of a plan shrinking. Mr. Daniel's face doesn't move, but his shoulders lower a fraction, as if the night has grown heavier than his suit. Thank you, the officer says. We'll review these and return in the morning for a formal statement. For now, we'll need to secure a few items, speak with staff, and confirm timelines. May I make a call? Mr. Daniel asks softly. You may, the officer replies, but not to move assets or influence anyone about these materials. Please understand. I understand, Mr. Daniel says. The men work without drama. They place documents into folders, they label, they log. They are careful with the room, careful with the truth. When they leave, the house exhales. Silence returns, but it is a different silence than before. This is not the hush of control. It is the hush that follows a prayer being answered. It is the hush that belongs to morning when clouds are still deciding whether to rain. By dawn, Abuja is new with light. Kites drift over the hills. The road to Asokoro hums with early commuters, and the sky over Maitama turns the color of ripe pawpaw. Inside the house, nobody has really slept. Not even the visitor, who had disappeared in the confusion of the officer's departure so quietly that only the floor noticed he was gone. Sandra sits by the window, Bible open, eyes open wider. Mary joins her with a cup of tea. Esther trims a leaf from a plant that has struggled in the dim study and moves it into the sun. Rose writes a quick list of things that need doing, small things that make a home remember itself. Lily steps into the corridor, then into the garden, testing her freedom with each footstep like a child learning a safe path. Mr. Daniel remains in his room longer than usual. Finally, he comes out and takes his breakfast in the dining room, where family photographs line the wall. The photos used to look like evidence of a life. This morning, they look like props on a set where a new play has been announced. He begins, ladies. Please, Sandra says softly, before you speak, may we pray? He pauses. The old Mr. Daniel would have scoffed. The practiced Mr. Daniel would have smiled and moved on. This new morning Mr. Daniel closes his mouth and nods. Sandra's prayer is simple. She thanks God for mercy, for breath, for a roof that will no longer cover heavy silence. She asks for wisdom, for fairness, for calm steps. She prays for Mr. Daniel, not with fire but with dignity, as if asking a surgeon to work with steady hands. Amen, Mary whispers. Amen, the others echo. Mr. Daniel clears his throat. There will be questions today, he says. You may be asked things you don't understand. We will answer what we know, Lily replies, voice firm, surprising herself a little. And what you don't know? He asks. We will say we don't know, Esther says simply. We will not decorate the truth. There is no anger in the room, no shouting, just clarity. The day unfolds with doors and footsteps and measured voices. Officials return. Statements are taken, phones ring, cars come and go. It is not a raid. It is a cleansing rain. A small surprise, the gardener, the driver, the steward all tell the same quiet truths. No one is dramatic. No one is cruel. They are simply done with shadows. Even the neighbors, when approached, speak without malice. He was generous, one says. He was distant, another adds. His gifts were umbrellas, says a third, but sometimes the sun is what we needed. Abuja has a way of summarizing life in one line. In the afternoon, Pastor James arrives with gentle eyes and the same walking stick. He prays in the living room with the wives. He prays in the study alone, not to fight a person, but to tidy the air. He prays in the corridor, touching the wall with his hand as if checking a child's forehead for fever. Then he asks to see Mr. Daniel. They meet in the garden, where the birds have resumed their common work of being beautiful. Pastor James sits. Mr. Daniel remains standing, like a tree that has not decided whether to bend. Son, Pastor James says, not unkindly, when a house is built on a story, it must be the right story. Otherwise, the roof listens to the wind, and the wind doesn't lie. Mr. Daniel smiles a tired smile. Pastor, he says, you see me when I am small. I see you when you are true, Pastor James replies, Truth is not small, it is exact. Silence. Leaves talk in their own language. Somewhere, a car horn sighs. Do you think I am finished? Mr. Daniel asks. I think, Pastor James says gently, that if you choose humility, you are beginning. The word hangs there, humility, like a light low enough to warm the hands. Evening approaches with the soft gold that Abuja wears so well. The lead officer returns one last time with a careful folder and firm eyes. Mr. Daniel, he says, you will need to come with us to give a full statement. Arrangements are made, it will be respectful. Mr. Daniel nods. He turns to the wives. In that moment, without the walls of control, he looks like a man who has been wearing a costume for years and suddenly sees himself in a mirror without it. He begins, then stops. Simple words are the most difficult, he tries again. I was wrong to turn people into ornaments in my house. I was wrong to treat kindness like a tool. I was wrong to measure life by how tightly I could hold it. Mary's eyes soften. Esther folds her arms, but only to keep herself steady. Rose's jaw trembles, she lets it. Lily stands straight, no longer apologizing to the air for taking space. They do not rush to forgive. They do not perform hurt, they simply let the words land. He faces Sandra last. You, he says, voice low. You would not bend. Sandra shakes her head gently, I did not stand by myself. He nods. He understands. Not everything, but enough to know he is not the biggest thing in the room. The officers lead him to the car, no handcuffs, no spectacle, just accountability with a human face. As he steps out, the sky loses the last of its gold, and a clean evening takes its place. The gate closes. The house is quiet again. For the first time in years, the kitchen is a real kitchen. Laughter returns to its ordinary work. Mary cooks jollof and hums an old tune. Esther arranges plates with an elegance that used to be swallowed by anxiety. Rose tells a story about a time a goat chased her through a market and makes everyone wheeze. Lily cuts fruit with confidence and keeps her laughter where everyone can see it. Sandra calls her parents. Mr. Peter's voice is thick with relief and apology. Mrs. Blessing begs to visit. Come, Sandra says, smiling, come and see what God has done. They arrive the next day with a bag of ground nuts and too many hugs. Mr. Peter looks around the living room as if it has grown a new ceiling. My daughter, he says, we placed heavy stones on your path. You still kept your feet. Forgive me. Sandra reaches for his hands. We were afraid, she says. Fear makes people choose short roads. But we are learning the long road now. We are learning it together. Together, her mother repeats, weeping kindly. Pastor James visits again and gathers everyone in the living room, wives, staff, parents, even the security men at the gate. No performance. No drama. Just community, seated like a circle around a well. Let's speak a lesson, he says, so this house remembers. He doesn't ask Sandra to speak first, but she does. Her voice is soft and sure. I learned that peace is not weak, she says. Peace is a backbone you can't see. When you walk with peace, your steps make rules in rooms you didn't build. Mary speaks next. I learned that quiet hearts are not doors, she says. They are gardens. You don't enter. You are invited. Esther says, I learned that truth doesn't need noise. It needs company. Rose laughs. I learned I can laugh without asking permission, she says. And when I laugh like that, even the spoons in the kitchen sound brighter. Lily lifts her chin. I learned that my voice is not a visitor, she says. It lives here. David, always patient, clears his throat. I learned that a house can be swept many times and still be dirty if the windows are closed, he says. Open the windows. Mr. Peter adds, I learned that hunger can hire your mouth if you let it, but wisdom pays better. Mrs. Blessing wipes her eyes. I learned that a girl's no can be holy, she says, parents should protect it. Pastor James smiles. He taps his walking stick once, like a full stop. Good, he says. Now let the house move forward. Weeks pass. The city keeps breathing. You can see the changes if you know where to look. The study is no longer a place of secrets. It becomes a library where sunlight sits all afternoon. The small metal box returned as evidence, now empty, sits on a shelf like a caution. The wives visit it sometimes the way you visit a crossroads you once took blindly. Mary starts a small outreach for women who feel invisible, nothing loud, only steady. Esther handles paperwork for a fair women's cooperative. Rose teaches girls in the neighborhood how to tell stories with truth and humor, so their laughter never has to hide behind anyone's approval. Lily volunteers at a community center, helping young wives practice saying what they mean kindly but clearly. David plants herbs by the kitchen window, the soups taste more honest now. Sandra, the girl of grace, prays as before, no stage, no spotlight. But she does one more thing, she begins to visit families in Kuje and Garki where poverty tries to shout louder than wisdom. She sits with parents, listens, and tells the story of a house that tried to buy a destiny and failed. She does not name names. Abuja already knows names. She speaks of choices and peace, of the God who walks the regular roads, of how money can be a good servant but a very rude master. One Saturday, as the sky polishes itself for evening and the breeze carries market laughter across the streets, Sandra returns home to Guzape. The gate opens like a greeting. Inside, the house is not the same house. No, the walls are the same, the tiles are the same, the chandeliers still sparkle like they swallow light, but the air is different. It feels like someone opened a back door and let the old heaviness walk out with its luggage. She meets Mary in the hallway. Mary's dress is flour-dusted, puff puff. Mary offers, smiling. Sandra grins, yes, please. As they walk toward the kitchen, her phone buzzes. It is an unfamiliar number, she answers. The voice is calm, masculine, and humble in a way she did not expect. Sandra, the voice says, it's me. She pauses, she knows the me, the room seems to lean closer. Yes, she replies. I gave my statement, Mr. Daniel says, there is more to do, there will be outcomes. I am not calling to ask for anything, I am calling to say, thank you for not hating me when hatred would have been easy. His breath is steady but low, I am learning to tell the truth about myself. It is hard, it is right. Sandra looks through the kitchen doorway. Rose and Lily are arranging plates, Esther is counting something, Mary is at the stove humming. Home hums back, truth makes space, Sandra says. Walk in it. A pause, I will try, he says, if you ever need anything legitimate, responsibly, say the word. I owe more than I can repay. You owe change, Sandra answers, and she means it kindly, make that payment. He exhales. I will try, he repeats softly, good night. Good night, says Sandra. She returns to the kitchen, where puff puff is golden and laughter is legal. They eat, they tease. They wash plates with water that catches the last of the sun. Later, when the house settles and Abuja sings its night song, Sandra steps to the balcony. The city sparkles, Garki, Wuse, Maitama, all the familiar names strewn like quiet fire. She prays her usual prayer, not for drama, not for headlines, just for the ordinary miracle of daily light, that people will choose peace over pressure, that parents will choose wisdom over panic, that men with power will remember that power is a borrowed coat, and that every young woman will learn the size of her no, and the weight of her yes. Wealth without wisdom is a room without windows. It looks big, but the air is wrong. Do not sell your voice to feed your fear. Do not turn people into things. Guard your peace, it is not weakness, it is direction. And when truth knocks, open the door. It won't break your house, it will build it. Abuja sleeps lighter that night. And the house in Guzape, once famous for tall gates and quiet secrets, becomes known for something better: the loudness of honest laughter, the steadiness of restored hearts, and a simple, stubborn light that money cannot buy and power cannot dim. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, we love hearing from you. And stay tuned for the next chapter of our incredible story.